So far, we have added, subtracted, and multiplied complex numbers. Final operation we're going to perform on them is division. When we divide complex numbers, we are looking to simplify it and put it in standard form. That'll be what the directions say. Write the complex number in standard form. Okay, standard form would mean that there's no I in a denominator, because I, if you remember, is an irrational, imaginary, radical expression, which we're not allowed to have in the denominator of a fraction. So the key to doing this is we multiply the numerator and denominator by the complex conjugate of the denominator. Fancy words for meaning this. If I have a plus bi as my denominator, its complex conjugate would be a minus bi. Same two parts, different symbol in the middle. Using that idea, to simplify this complex number and put it in standard form, we need to multiply both the numerator and the denominator by the same thing. Similar to simplifying a radical expression where there's a square root in the denominator. That's 3 plus I, excuse me. So 3 plus I is the complex conjugate. We're going to multiply top and bottom by this. Now, let's take care of the denominator first. And here's the neat thing that happens when you multiply by a conjugate. As I multiply these two expressions together, these FOIL once again. So 3 times 3 is 9. And then I get positive 3i. And now for the cool part, the next term we're going to have is negative I times 3, which is negative 3i, which, as I'm sure you can figure out, is going to make these two cancel. So the last term I work with then is negative I times itself, which is going to be negative I squared. Remember that that I squared is equal to negative 1. So this is really at the end of our problem saying minus negative 1. Well, that's going to turn into positive 1. 3i and negative 3i will cancel. I have 9 plus 1, which equals 10. A nice rational number for a denominator. So we'll put a 10 there. That's what our denominator is going to be. In the numerator, we will distribute. 6i times 3 is going to be 18i. And 6i times I is going to be 6i squared. Now remember, I squared is negative 1, so this term is going to change into negative 6. We'll make that a negative 6 here, plus 18i all over 10. The last thing I would do here is I'd probably simplify. If I could reduce fractions, I would. 10 is being divided into both of these terms. So it's negative 6 divided by 10 and 18i divided by 10. Negative 6 over 10 can be simplified to negative 3 over 5. 18 over 10, well, let's see, that's going to be 9 over 5. Because 2 goes into this 9 times and 2 goes into this 5 times. So, and this one has the I next to it. So negative 3/5 plus 9/5 I, there's our complex number in standard form. Again, real part plus imaginary part. Now that may have seemed like a lot of work. The neat thing is, once again, your calculator is quite handy at working with complex numbers. So I'm going to show you that next. To perform the same operation on your calculator, first of all, when using division, you must be very careful with parentheses. Always put the entire numerator in parentheses. In this case, it happens to be 6i. Divided by the entire denominator, also in parentheses, which happens to be 3 minus I. When I'm ready, I hit enter. Now this gives me a decimal. I don't want decimal answers. We don't like that, but we can change decimals to fractions with our calculator by hitting the math key. First option is change to a fraction, so I'll hit enter to choose that option. Changes the previous answer right here to a fraction. Hit enter, and we end up with negative 3/5 plus 9/5 I. The exact same answer we got doing it by hand. Fantastic. So for the second one, I won't even bother writing that one out because it's a little bit difficult, a lot of work. We'll just type it in and see what we get here. Negative 1 minus 6i. Again, entire numerator in parentheses. This is a key. Divided by the entire denominator in parentheses. 5 plus 9i. Close those parentheses. Hit enter. Wow, it's an ugly looking set of decimals. But remember, math, enter, enter, changes it into a fraction. Kind of a goofy looking fraction, but hey, one that we'll write down and say, yes, this is our answer right here. Fantastic.